Welcome back to a Slice of News, where I cut you off a slice of news. In the wake of numerous allegations of sexual misconduct, Representative Eric Swalwell has removed himself from the California governor's race. Despite his claims that the allegations against him were in fact false, many of his staffers were quitting on him when the accusations came out, and many of the prominent Democrats that once supported him were urging him to drop out, leading him to eventually make the decision to leave the race. Many are happy to see him leave, not only because of the accusations, but also because the Democratic side of the ticket is crammed full of potential candidates. And there was a real concern that because of the way it's set up in California, by the time it was time to vote, the only two candidates were going to be two Republicans, and no matter what, California would end up with their next governor being a Republican who would likely side with the current administration and do untold damage to the state. The hope was as time went on, more Democrats would drop out of the race, making those that remained have more chance of actually winning. Yet, none of them were, which is why, despite the fact that for many, Swalwell was their top choice, their front runner, they're still glad to see him go. And while hopefully the circumstances will be much different for them, they are also hoping that many other of the Democrat candidates will also likewise drop out of the race. But the Swalwell situation also really undercuts the difference between the two political parties that we have in this country. When the accusations against him were made public, the Democrats immediately went to trying to get him to drop out and are actually now trying to get him removed from Congress entirely. Yet if he were a Republican, he would most certainly not be looking at this sort of pushback from his own party. Republicans have shown that they are quite tolerant of people within their party committing sexual offenses, so much so that they've elected a man who has been accused of numerous sexual assaults across decades to be their president and leader, not once but twice. When you really get down to it, when it comes to accountability, Republicans are simply not interested. The list of Republican politicians who are credibly accused of and sometimes even convicted of numerous inappropriate actions is vast, and it's very rare that there is a push for them to expel these members from their own party. It almost universally comes from people on the left calling for them to be removed as a result of the things that they did. It seems almost comical that the Republican Party sells itself as the party of law and order when it seems like the Democrats are the only ones actually practicing it. And when members of their party are credibly accused of wrongdoings, they take action against them. As they should. That should be the minimum expectation, regardless of political affiliation. But while Republicans love to talk the talk, Democrats seem to walk the walk far more often. To catch people up with how the whole Swalwell situation developed and his downfall began is that a former staffer told the San Francisco Chronicle that he had sexual encounters with her while working for him, and that he had sexually assaulted her twice and she was unable to consent. That on its own would have been bad enough, but when that came out, 3 additional Swalwell staffers accused him of making sexual advances and sending explicit photos to them. After the accusations started coming out, staffers started leaving, endorsements started fading, and his entire campaign was in free fall. And just like that, he went from being one of the frontrunners to be California's next governor to a political pariah, and yet another example of a politician who seemingly can't keep it in his pants. One question that many people seem to have on their mind is, why does this keep happening? Why does it seem like time after time these scandals seem to come out and politicians seem to be revealed as these awful sexual predators over and over? And while I have no doubt there are many answers to that question, there is not just one singular solution. I think it's safe to say that politics attracts people who are drawn to power because they didn't really have that much in their previous life. The type that were maybe not overly popular back in school. So now that they are granted the power, they feel that they are now owed what they felt they were denied before. They couldn't get women before. Well, now women will come to them. They will have all those ladies who used to be the girls that said no to him, even if they don't want it. They say power corrupts, and this is exactly what they were talking about. The power that political office grants sometimes causes these men to do things that they know are wrong, and society would definitely vilify them for doing, but they seemingly cannot help themselves and do these things regardless, hoping, I suppose, that they will not be caught. But inevitably, they so often are. So while I absolutely would never condone or justify what Eric Swalwell did, I can see perhaps what led him down the path and how he managed to get himself where he is now. The revelations about Eric Swalwell are very disappointing. A lot of people put a lot of faith in him becoming the next governor because he genuinely felt like someone who was not only trustworthy and good, but one of the best choices. And now he is no longer an option. They believed in him and he let them down. And that's something they're not going to forget. And while he did initially deny the claims and say that they were all false accusations, I suppose he does have to be commended for not stubbornly sticking it out and continuing his campaign despite the credible accusations against him, because that would undoubtedly have made things worse in the California governor race and increased the chances a Republican was going to actually win in the long run. So while absolutely nothing he was accused of or did is commendable, I suppose he does have to be commended for at least this one thing, at least acknowledging that he did the right thing and decided to suspend the campaign rather than pushing forward despite it. Until all this came out, he really did seem like a good choice, possibly the one who could take it all the way and win. And now having him taken off the board is disappointing, but the right thing to do. And if there is a silver lining to all this, on top of just making one less Democratic candidate on the ballot that could split the Democrat vote and result in a Republican winning the California governorship, it's that it shows that when it comes down to it, the Democratic Party does do what's right. Sometimes maybe not as fast as they should, but in the end, they do the right thing, unlike the Republican Party, who refuses to just about every time they get the chance. They've made it abundantly clear that this sort of thing is not acceptable and is not tolerated within their party. And maybe show the Republicans how it's done when someone within their party is accused or found to be doing things that are incredibly heinous and unacceptable. Ignoring and accepting it is not an option to them. And really, it shouldn't be an option to anyone. If a politician does wrong, they should be punished swiftly. And that is what we're seeing here. That should just be the minimum expectation. But the bar is set so low by Republicans that this seems almost surprising when it really shouldn't be. Had Swalwell been a Republican, I'm sure there would have been many within the Republican Party that would have said that the accusers were lying and that Swalwell was a good man and they were just trying to besmirch his good name during this time of election. And it was all probably a Democrat hoax anyway. They would stand by their man no matter what, no matter how many accusations came out, no matter how credible they were, no matter how much incontrovertible evidence there was the accusations were entirely true, they would not care. In the minds of Republicans, reality is what they say it is. So if the accusers say he did something and he says he didn't do it, he didn't do it. It doesn't matter the evidence. It doesn't matter how much proof there is. But to their credit, that's not what we're seeing from Democrats. They immediately believed the accusations and then took action to expel him, because they didn't hold their own personal reputations over the well-being and reputations of the women Eric Swalwell was inappropriate with. Yes, it was still possible the accusations weren't credible, and Swalwell was actually telling the truth when he denied those accusations. But the first instinct was not to assume that the accusers were lying, and Swalwell was innocent just because he said he was. In fact, believing the victims first is in a way taking a page out of Eric Swalwell's own book, since he was vocal in his support for women who were accusing future Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh of sexual assault ahead of his confirmation hearing. So if Eric Swalwell wanted us to believe the victims and not the denials of the accused perpetrator, that's exactly what we must do. I'm sure at the time Eric Swalwell never imagined that the shoe would be on the other foot and his push to believe women would now be used against him, but here we are. It's a real shame that Eric Swalwell turned out to be a bad apple, but it's good to see the Democratic Party removing the bad apples from their bunch. While they may not always do the right thing, when it comes down to it, most of the time they do what's right and what needs to be done, even if it means condemning and possibly even removing one of their own. It's just the right way to be. Alright guys, that'll be it for this episode of A Slice of News. I've been your host, Mr. Slice. Until next time when I cut you off, another Slice of News. And don't forget to rate and review the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you find it.